but not from the very beginning, but from where I left off, because there was a very bad connection. So I'm just going to start. I left off at reading a story. So I'm going to read a story. In one of my workshops years ago, I met a man who suffered from chronic depression. I noticed that he was always sketching or doodling. So, as an artist, was in an artistic profession. Immediately, he grew very defensive and said with a huff that as soon as he had an original idea, he would see it somewhere else. His inner narrative was that someone else was always one creative step ahead of him. So he reasoned that any effort to compete using his artistic talent would be a waste of time. Yet apparently he had mastered one art form, the art of the critic, as he deftly shredded the accomplishments of every artist whose name came up in our conversation. It was impossible for this man to compliment any artists, not because their work was lacking, but because they had managed to accomplish what he could not bring himself to do. Take the risk, take the risk to become extraordinary. They had unleashed their creativity and given it full rein to inspire the work that poured out of them. What's more, they were willing to endure the revelation that not everyone in the world was going to love their work. They were daring to live who they really were, no matter what type of public acknowledgement came or did not come. The man in my workshop, on the other hand, had chosen to repress his creativity out of fear of being viewed as just another run of the mill artist, as he put it. The irony is that he really hadn't stopped seeking acknowledgement for his talent as an artist. Only now he was expressing his artistic talent in a backhanded way as a harsh art critic. But how can you quell the fear of being ordinary so that it doesn't prevent you from doing your art? One way is to imagine that creativity is a stream flowing through you, providing you with energy that must be directed into something. If you choose not to use your creativity, you are in effect building a dam inside you that prevents the flow of your natural creative insight. As we have already seen, archetypes are imperatives, demanding that we give them expression. The artist's creative archetype creativity in some way. You cannot wait for someone else to acknowledge the artist in you in order to recognize your own gifts. It is up to you to bring your gifts to the world, no matter how small or large your world. Your being recognized by millions of people or only 10, but whichever, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you acknowledged your creative gifts. For the artist creative, that is the source of true self esteem. Male counterpart. The inherent impulse for your creativity is not gender specific, and the artist creative archetype finds equal expression in men and women. Any differences are generally a product of social convention. If you are a woman in the visual arts, for example, you are more likely to associate success with popular acclaim, whereas a male artist is more likely to view success in terms of money and power. Not that women artists are uninterested in influence or financial success, or male artists in audience approval, but men still find it easier to compete in the arts than women do, and male artists, as a rule, make more money. The history of art, particularly the visual arts, is largely a history of accomplished men. Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, Rembrandt, and Picasso, to name a few. The reason is cultural. Until the 20th century, women were generally not welcome in ateliers and art schools, and unless they had an influential patron, they had to make it on their own. Only a handful of women in the visual artists, Georgia O'Keeffe for one, had achieved anything like the prominence of their male. Women artists have been more successful in arts. Some of the highest paid film stars myths of the artist attached to the creative artist archetype that it is small wonder would be creatives are reluctant to even listen to their inner artist. One stereotype that has been around for centuries is the starving artist, the painter or dancer or writer or musician who sacrifices all for art, living hand to mouth existence in a garret somewhere. Think of Vincent van Gogh or Toulouse Lautrec, Mozart, or Edgar Allan Poe, or any of the principals in the classic tale of artistic life, the opera La Boheme. In my work, I have seen evidence of how the starving artist myth can stifle the artist creative. I have watched people as they reached a crossroads where they were called to examine how they wanted to spend the rest of their lives. This is an archetypal moment that presents us with an opportunity to lead a more authentic life based on who we really are and what we have yet to contribute to the world. Those who meet the artist creative at this crossroads often are seized with a sense of urgency mixed with excitement. They can feel their inner artist creative clamoring for attention, begging for release of its creative potential. They long to let the artist creative rip through the confines of their ordinary life and charge it with untapped power. Yet I have seen these same people turn back or look away, asking themselves, but how will I support myself? What if this is a foolish dream? What if I lose everything? The starving artist myth can tunnel down into the psyche with dark fears and negativity, convincing us we need a guarantee of success from destiny itself before our inner artist creative will even try. A companion to the starving artist myth is the myth of the bohemian artist, free spirited, spontaneous, eccentric, and in every way outside the norm. This myth contains a grain of truth in that making art is an introspective process, often involving long, solitary hours in a studio or home office. Although many artist creatives are by nature solitary, and a surprising number of performers are very shy off stage, others are as sociable as any other archetype. And if artist creatives like to hang out together, it is because, like most of us, they gravitate towards people who share their interests. Artist creatives enjoy the stimulation of exchanging ideas and techniques with other creative people who understand the particular joys, challenges, and responsibilities of leading an imagination driven life. While the association between art and poverty has been the view for centuries, death. Think of painters like Julian Schnabel, pop artists like Justin Bieber and Lady Gaga, and just about any Hollywood star, far from La Vie Bohemia. These artists lead glamorous red carpet lives. Of course, most artists, even professional ones, are not living in the stratosphere alongside the artist star. A more down to earth portray of today's working artist creative might show a painter dropping her kids off at school before settling down at her easel, a writer emailing his novel to his publisher from his cube at his .com job, or a girl band recording a demo in the lead singer's suburban garage. Yet another myth of the artist creative that refuses to die is that of the drunken artist. Is folded or cut short by addiction. Ernest Hemingway, lives, Diller, Tom, Jimi Hendrix spring to mind, but there is no hard evidence that John was susceptible to Janis Joplin, careers, and their lifestyle challenge. Let's be honest, knows is 12-step program for every fail. But the addiction have sprung up. Many of our actor friend has pointed out for the perform your own life can sometimes as good as your last performance. In another way, continual reinvention artistic process and a core strength of the artist creative archetype. As the seem like a never ending, always searching for a more precise or profound way to articulate their message. Making art is trial and error, painting and overpainting until just the right image emerges from the ashes of what didn't work. The challenge for the artist is to rise above fear of failure, even failure itself, and begin again and again and again. With that in mind, it might seem that the hobby artist has the best of the artist's creative world. If you are making art for yourself, you can dabble, play, mess around, experiment, pick up or drop any medium or method or instrument you want. It hardly matters if you are good at it or not. You can always move on to another art form or genre without having to worry about humiliation of failure. The run of your imagination with no one else saying, artist creative has stopped, don't go there. But in reality, every artist, whether always working with professional or dedicated amateur or an artist of life, boundaries of some sort, those imposed by your chosen medium, if nothing else. Lights of imagination comes to putting them down on paper or canvas, you are obliged to work within the discipline of your art form. However inspired the message from your soul, you still have to give it form. The two-dimensional canvas, the proscenium stage, the eight-tone scale, or the rhyming couplet becomes your frame. Even if your form of expression is redoing the bathroom, the pressure is no less real. You are putting your creativity on display. Your challenge is to go ahead and paint the walls purple and stand by your decision, even when your dinner guests cannot stop whispering about what a mistake you made. Miscalculations and flat way to finding your original voice. But among the great gifts of making art is learning persistence. Keep trying, keep experimenting, and eventually you will be rewarded. The artist's creative archetype is not to give up in the face of messes, false starts, do-overs, or failure. Just because the outcome falls short of your expectations does not mean that your talent has failed. Talent is always there, energy ever ready to be tapped. The artist creative archetype is not something that only springs alive in certain contexts. Your life is always your art form. Recognize your archetype. Are you an artist creative? I most definitely am. Definitely falls into my family. By now, you must have realized that you don't need to star in a Broadway play or have a painting in the Metropolitan Museum to qualify as an artist creative. True, there are some of you who have never wanted to be anything but an artist or a performer and have already decided to make art your vocation. The artist creative archetype is vividly alive in you, and you consider art your calling. You may even have enjoyed some or much acclaim. Others of you may also identify with the artist creative archetype, even if you have not yet established yourself professionally. If you truly have this archetype and remain committed to your art, recognize in some form will almost certainly come. Still, others of you may feel drawn to the arts but remain unsure if you can claim the artist creative as your archetype. Ask your the world. If so, you very likely fit this archetype. Although you need time to refine your mode of expression and consider whether you want to create professionally or for your own pleasure. The reality is that only a handful of people become world-class artists or performers, but many, many more of us can rightly identify ourselves as artist creatives. You may experience your artist creative as a subtle level, as an inner voice that guides you in making aesthetically pleasing choices in day-to-day life. Whether or not you ever pick up a paintbrush, tie on a pair of pointy shoes, or try your hand at a verse, the artist archetype can profoundly influence and enrich your life, giving you a thirst for beauty and passion to manifest it in your surroundings. Creativity demands expression. The creative appetite must be satisfied. The real starving artist is not the one subsisting on ramen noodles in order to pursue her lifelong dream, but rather your own inner artist if you fail to recognize, honor, or support her. Perhaps, however, you are already expressing your creative vision in some way. Learning the guitar, shooting a photo essay, spending weekends in your garden, not just planting and pruning, but planting the exact right balance of variety and color. It is time to acknowledge these hobbies of the soul as art. They are as important to you as air. One signpost of the artist creative is that you identify not just with being creative, but also with what you create. For the artist creative archetype, finding form for your creativity is vital to your very being. Okay, I may be creative, you concede, but does that mean I'm an artist? If you are still not sure that the artist creative is your archetype, check out the behavior pattern and characteristic of the artist on the next page and see if any of them describe you. Behavior patterns and characteristics of the artist creative. You see beauty everywhere. The curve of your lover's cheek, the nuance of a shade of green, the sparkle of sunlight on the waves. You are drawn to the unusual in art and architecture. You are inspired by color, texture, and shape. If so, the visual artist is alive in you. You come alive in front of an audience. When you play an instrument, give a speech, tell a joke, dance the tango, you are communicating with whoever is watching. That is your artist performer looking for a stage. You listen to music and your heart soars. You glance at your childhood piano with a pang of guilt. Your iPod is surgically planted in your head. You vocalize at every opportunity, working it, harmonizing, noodling around, and you like what you hear. Your inner artist musician is trying to get your ear. You dream of seeing your name on the bestseller list. You've been keeping a journal since childhood. You have poems or a play stashed in a drawer. When something noteworthy happens in your life, the first thought is to write it down. No question, you're an artist is a writer. Get busy, update your blog. You're ready to make art, not read about it or talk about it. Step into your archetype, tapping into the power of the artist creative. Once you decide that the artist creative archetype defines you, the next step is finding the right vehicle to express it. If you are already setting up your next art show or booking a hall to premiere your band, congratulations on tapping into the power of your archetype. You can skip this next bit. But if you're still wondering how to move from thinking about making art to actually doing it, try acting if you are an artist creative for an hour, or a day, or a week. Do something artistic and notice if you feel energized. Hang around with artist creatives and drink in the creative inspiration. No matter how your inner artist creative speaks to you, pay attention and be responsive. By all means, start small. Instead of composing a rock opera, try your hand at writing a song. But don't just come up with a few bars of melody and a line or two of lyrics and then stop. If you are an artist, you have a spiritual obligation to gift the world with your talent. Keep going. What if I get stuck, hit a creative block, you might ask. If you do, and all artist creatives do at times, change direction temporarily. If you were painting, read a book or listen to music. Bake a cake, brush the dog, phone a friend, get up and walk around the room, but don't give up. Sometimes the artist creative in you needs a gentle nudge to emerge. Perhaps you have not yet started to make art, but you feel restless, unsatisfied with your life, and wanting something more, though you are not sure what. Odd as it seems, restlessness may be your artist creative knocking on the door. Do you have a talent that is long past due to be developed or refined? What small step could you take toward connecting with your inner artist? Most working artists have a list of projects they plan to undertake. What separates them from the wannabe artist is that they pick something from the list, make a commitment to do it, and then plunge in. Period. Try it. If you're still dragging your feet, well, all right. Just this once, I will come to your rescue. Here are a few more suggestions for priming the creative pump. Artist friends assure me they work. Okay. Listen to yourself. Turn off all media. Silence your phone. And for a few minutes, just sit there. Let the internal chatter die down. What you may discover is a kind of creative void. Since nature abhors a vacuum, ideas and inspiration have a way of rushing in. If you have a question on your mind, say you sit down, then leave it alone. If you say, what is my artist creative called to do? Plug it in when you sit down, then leave it alone. What you are doing is creating space for your intuition to tell you what you're really thinking, what you're worrying about, perhaps, or what you wish you were doing. Do not jump up the minute you feel restless. Give your inner eye time to focus. It may take you a few sessions like this before your intuition yields up a pearl, but trust me, it's worth the wait. Consult your creative childhood. All children are creative. They have not yet been informed of society's rules or told what color they should paint the cow. Think back to when you were young and what you most enjoyed doing. It was probably something creative. Painting, drawing, banging on drums or a toy piano, playing dress up or ballerina, or just daydreaming. Plenty of artists I know spent their childhood immersed in an imaginary world of imaginary friends, monsters, and other creatures, and then made up or acted out stories about them. I'm not suggesting that you revert to childhood. Art is made in the present with ideas and images that live today. But getting a sense of what got you creative juices flowing back then can help you connect with that creative energy in you now. Browse. Here's a suggestion I can really get behind. Go shopping. Not with the intent to buy, though if something catches your eye, there's no harm in going back for it later on. The intention here is to give that wonderland of your imagination, that wonderland of your imagination a wealth of stimulating input. A writer told me that when she's feeling dry, she goes to an upscale department store and walks the aisles slowly, as if she were grazing. She lets her eye fall on this scarf, that purse, this display, that shopper with the strange hat and bracelets up to her elbows. After an hour or so, she goes back to her desk. Invariably, she said, when she sits down again to write, fresh images come to mind, or a sentence or a paragraph she was struggling with untangles itself. An artist told me he spends time in the wholesale flower market. He doesn't paint flowers, but giant abstract canvases with blocks of oil painted in vivid hues. He draws inspiration from the riot of color in the flower sellers' stalls. Get a creative job. Many artists would be artists as they become better acquainted with the artist creative archetype, feel a strong pull to introduce more creativity into their professional life. It may not be practical to drop everything and just paint or write or study dance, but you can look for a job or a career path that offers opportunities to use your talents. You may have to be creative about your search, looking beyond obvious places, but even something seemingly mundane, like a support position in a non-profit, can be very creative if, for example, you're in charge of decorations for the annual fundraiser, or updating the organization's website and setting up a social media interface. Even when you are clear that the artist creative archetype defines you, success in finding the perfect way to express it is not guaranteed. Habitual thinking and age-old psychological patterns can throw up roadblocks to creativity when we least expect it. Developing the artist's creative archetype is to the fullest requires knowing what empowers you to move forward and what can hold you back. Where you gain your power. Consciously perfecting your singular artistic vision, your original voice. Sharpening your artistic eye by experimenting with color, texture, and design. Surrounding yourself with creative people who inspire you. Trusting your creative instincts completely. Remembering that you were born for artistic expression. Seeding your imagination with input from all the arts, not just your chosen medium. Plugging into the culture to open your mind to what's new. Feeding all your senses, taste, touch, sight, hearing, sensing, to stimulate your creativity and enrich your inner life. Cultivating your intuition, the artist creative's best friend. Maintaining a positive outlook. Creativity thrives on optimism. Where you lose your power and how you regain it. Comparing yourself to other artists. Don't do that. No one's better than any other. Art is art. Comparing yourself to other artists. Collaborate. Collaborate. Don't compete. God, how many times do we have to repeat that one? Collaborate. Don't compete. And learn from your colleagues. Craving public acknowledgement for your talent. Focus on making art and the rest will follow. These are the drawbacks. This list is where you lose your power. Craving public acknowledgement. Expecting to realize your artistic vision right away. Cultivate patience. Giving into mood swings that can accompany creative pressure. Get up and move. Walking, yoga, sports, dancing, and martial arts can even out your mood. Wallowing in regret. I could have been a contender. Keeps you stuck in the past. Stay in the present. Art is made here and now. Equating success with financial gain. If you can feed the family, support your art, and splurge on the odd night out, be happy. Checklist for the artist. I take time to create every day, giving my imagination free rein. I have friends and mentors who support my artistic vision and creative lifestyle. I surround myself with beautiful things that inspire me. I have the patience to create without immediate material gain. I affirm my talent every day without worrying about what other people think. Final thoughts. The artist's creative archetype has an inborn calling to contribute to life creatively. It is a privilege to possess artistic gifts and talents. Cultivate yours. To deny them is true suffering. Oh, I love that chapter. So tomorrow we'll read about the athlete. Okie dokes. Everyone have a wonderful day.